Let's see how his appeal turns out.
All new at 10 tonight, the legal team for Cayson Allison, the former Belton High School student convicted in the death of a fellow classmate, has filed an appeal. Allison was sentenced to 10 years in prison after being convicted of criminally negligent homicide. According to court documents obtained by 6 News, Allison's appeal lawyer is arguing 3 points. Let's break it down.
Okay.
First, according to the appeal attorney, the judge told the jury self-defense does not consider a part of criminally negligent homicide charge. Second, the attorney also says the state failed to disprove self-defense. And third, nearly 2 weeks after the jury was dismissed, the state filed a deadly weapon notice. The appeal's lawyer argues the judge had no legal or constitutional authority to make that finding himself.
Okay, that's procedural, but come on.
Increasing the maximum sentence from 2 years to 10.
Wow.
Allison's legal team is asking for an acquittal, a new trial, or a new sentencing hearing. Cayson Allison is serving time.
And I guarantee he gets one of those 3. I guarantee this white boy gets one of those 3. I guarantee they're going to probably alter his sentence and they'll kick him out. Time served. I guarantee it. Let's go. Let's see how this whole thing unfolded.
We are learning more about the Belton High School student who died after being stabbed at school, allegedly by another student.
Belton police identified him
listen,
as
he caught the essay in the bathroom and jugged him.
18-year-old Jose Luis
Yeah, there you go.
Ramirez Jr.,
That's,
a senior at the school. He died at Baylor Scott and White Medical Center tonight from his injuries.
And 6 News anchor Bailey Bates has been following this devastating story today. She joins us live in studio now with more. Bailey?
Leslie, Chris, it was a very somber day in the Belton community. Feelings of uneasiness, confusion, and sorrow took over after the stabbing at Belton High this morning. But tonight, not every parent is getting to hold their loved one. A scary situation at Belton High School Tuesday when the school was put on lockdown for a reported stabbing.
I'm in shock because I have an older son that graduated from here in 2018, and it's always been a great school. I'm in shock.
Pamela Owen rushed to pick up her 2 kids from school after getting a text she never expected.
Got the text from my son saying they were barricaded in a room, but he's safe. So what does a mom do? We panic.
Belton ISD opened Tiger Field as a reunification center with hundreds of parents and guardians waiting in line to get their loved ones.
I've been in crazier situations at school.
Emotions were high as unanswered questions loomed.
They're all right. They're a little in shock. You know, I mean, we didn't expect something like this to happen. I mean, who does?
Belton police say an altercation between 2 seniors happened in the men's restroom just before 10 a.m. And then 18-year-old Cayson Tyler Allison allegedly stabbed 18-year-old Jose Joe Ramirez. Ramirez died at the hospital Tuesday afternoon from the violent act.
You know how to make you crack a smile, know how to crack a joke, know how to make you laugh.
So there's security footage of the white boy going into the bathroom after him and Jose and all his homies went. Like, he went in there like 1v4 by his damn self and got the poking on the guy that was tormenting him. Come on.
Regardless of anything, he was always there for you. That's really who Joe was. He was always that person that even when you didn't see him, you knew he was there.
Tuesday evening, Martin Martinez and other friends and family gathered to remember their friend. Lots of tears shed as they didn't expect to have to say goodbye this soon.
Still in shock. I think everybody's still kind of processing it, doesn't really believe it.
The sea of red, Ramirez's favorite color, will keep moving forward, honoring his life and how there was never a dull moment, and their memories will never fade. A GoFundMe has been created to help Joe's family as they grieve a young life loss. You can find that link on our website, kcntv.com. We've also known that Belton High School has canceled classes for tomorrow as the school will be closed. Chris, Leslie.
All right, thanks, Bailey. Now, Belton Mayor Wayne Carpenter released this statement today saying in part, quote, "I am deeply saddened by the tragic incident at Belton High School today and send my prayers to all of those who have been impacted by it, particularly to the young victim and his family," end quote. He went on to say, "On behalf of all Beltonians, I want all students, faculty, and staff at Belton High School
let's skip ahead.
and then admitted to the stabbing."
Well, the trial of Cayson Allison, the Belton High School student charged in the stabbing murder of his classmate, has been rescheduled. The trial was originally set for May 20th, but was delayed for parties to review potential evidence. 6 News anchor Bailey Bates is live in our studio tonight with the latest on this 2-year-old case. We won't know the outcome for a while now, Bailey.
Yeah, Lindsay, we know in today's hearing the judge, the prosecutor, and the defense attorney agreed to start the trial on January 13th of next year. That's when a Bell County jury will decide the fate for Cayson Allison. He's accused of stabbing and killing classmate Joe Ramirez in a Belton High bathroom on May 3rd, 2022. 2 years ago, 6 News obtained an arrest affidavit that said Ramirez was stabbed in the chest, back, legs, and arm. That affidavit also stated police obtained video that showed Allison stab Ramirez before the video abruptly comes to an end. According to online court records, we know that part of the reason trial has been delayed is for both the state and the defense to sort through and prepare potential evidence, including camera footage and several cell phones. A spectator in the courtroom at today's hearing tells me Cayson was present the first time in a while, and the defense attorney told the judge he had conflicts for much of the year, leaving the trial to not start until next year. Allison is out on bond, and we will keep you updated as we continue to follow this case, Lindsay. The trial of Cayson Allison is being delayed a third time, according to Bell County court records. Allison is facing murder charges for the death of his 18-year-old classmate, Jose Joe Ramirez Jr. The two allegedly got into a fight inside a school bathroom.
For those who are asking me, why is this relevant? It's parallel. This boy had a history of being bullied by the SA and caught the SA lacking in the bathroom. Was initially, I thought, overcharged and over-sentenced to 10 years. They filed an appeal, and they're asking for one of three things: either reduction in sentence, an acquittal, or a conviction overturned. He's going to get one of those three. I do feel that Austin Metcalf, Karemelo, has a good shot at an appeal. But what's going to happen is that kid's cell phone footage is going to have to get leaked. I don't care about the security footage. The cell phone footage from those kids is key. But I do think he has a pretty good shot in the appeal, but it's going to take a few years. You're going to have to do some sweat equity in the Texas prison. He going to have to rock him, sock him. You know, I've seen the young bulls talk about, hey, you got to come in here fighting the fuck off these. and the prison guards is like, 1800s antebellum. So, yeah, I pray for this young man that he has the strength and resolve and protection around him, because it's going to get rough for the next 4 or 5 years until his appeal is considered or heard. But I'm showing y'all parallels here, okay?
Where Allison pulled a knife and stabbed Ramirez several times. The trial was set to begin January 13th. Now the trial is scheduled for March 31st. There is currently no word as to the reason for the additional delayment.
Today marks the beginning of the trial for a former Belton High student indicted for murder. Cayson Allison, who was 18 at the time, has been accused of murdering his classmate Joe Ramirez in a Belton High School bathroom.
Ramirez was stabbed multiple times and later died from the injuries. 6 News reporter Sydney Walker was in the courtroom today. Sydney, what did you learn?
I got here about 8:45 a.m. and the hallways of the Bell County Justice Center were jam-packed. That's largely because this jury pool consists of 120 people. When the trial begins, it will take place in District Court 478, which is Judge Faulkner's court, but the hearing today was in District Court 146 simply to accommodate the number of people. During today's proceedings, Allison sat quietly between his two defense attorneys. If found guilty, he faces between 5 to 99 years in prison.
Sound familiar? 5 to 99, same amount of time that Austin was looking at, or that Karemelo was looking at, right? Okay, but he only got 10 years, and his appeal has come through. So they filed his appeal. They're going to hear his appeal. But come on.
Prison or life. Judge Faulkner mentioned to the court he was aware of the high media coverage of this case and told jurors to avoid learning information outside the court. There were also notices on the courtroom doors prohibiting recording and the use of cameras. When the hearing began, several jurors were dismissed or opted out. The state went first with its questions for the potential jurors, focusing heavily on the distinction between self-defense and deadly force, repeatedly asking where they drew the line between the two. Only late in the afternoon, around 2-ish, did they present vague details about the case. Once they revealed that the case involved school violence and a stabbing at Belton High, nearly 40 jurors raised their card to acknowledge they had previous knowledge of the case. Many expressed concern about the ability to remain unbiased. We will be hearing mostly from Allison's defense team tomorrow, since they didn't start their questioning until about 4-ish today, and then court convened about 4:30. But they did tell us today that they were here in defense of the law, not in defiance of the law. Jury selection will continue tomorrow, and the trial is expected to start in court on April 14th and will end no later than April 25th. I'll be here for you through it all. The morning didn't really get started until around 9:30, and what followed was Allison pleading not guilty. The witnesses were called to testify today, but overall today gave us a clearer picture of what went down in Belton High School hallways that May 3rd day.
Okay, listen, what I'm not going to do is debate you. Okay? I'm not going to sit here and say you're wrong. No. Cell footage of the fight exists. People have seen it. It was not some. You know what? You got it, man. You're right. See how I handle that, y'all? Hey, you know what? You're right. Let's continue. I'm not going to waste my energy. You're right, sir. Let's continue.
The prosecutor began in their opening statements revealing there is a recording of the incident. They also said that the conflict between Joe and Cayson began after an incident at a prom after party, and that Joe swung at Cayson first, accompanied by 4 others in that bathroom. The defense countered by saying that Allison was not guilty of murder because, quote, Cayson survived what could have very well been death or bodily injury by a group beatdown.
The same defense they try to make for Karemelo. Okay? Would have been death or bodily injury by a group beatdown. But come on.
The defense also made a motion to exclude photo and video evidence, which was denied by Judge Faulkner. The jury also saw security footage of the Belton High School hallways showing the students entering the bathroom and running out. This included video of Ramirez running out with a trail of blood behind him and eventually collapsing. Several witnesses took the stand today, including 911 dispatcher Amy Retz, security officer Philip Douglas Taylor, and teachers who responded to the scene. You can read more about the witnesses' testimony at kcentv.com. The trial is expected to continue tomorrow with more witnesses called to testify. I'll have more updates for you then.
5 more witnesses took the stand today in the murder trial of Cayson Allison.
Allison is facing charges alleging he stabbed and killed fellow Belton High School student Joe Ramirez. 6 News reporter Sydney Walker was back in the courtroom for day 2 of the trial. And Sydney, what did you hear from today?
Today we heard from a Belton PD detective who was there that day on the scene, as well as a close friend of Cayson's who tried to break up the fight before it even happened, plus 3 boys who were in the bathroom the day of the fight when it occurred. Yesterday we heard a lot from staff about what Joe's injuries were and the response that was taken, but today was focused way more on the dynamics between the 2 boys as well as their respective friend groups. For instance, after multiple graphic crime scene photos were shown, we learned from a Belton PD detective's testimony that he had obtained a video taken inside the bathroom by one of Joe's friends. His friend admitted Ramirez liked to have his fights recorded, but that he deleted the video because he was, quote, scared of what happened.
So the SA liked to record himself beating up on people. Okay. Come on, let's continue.
The video shows Ramirez punching Allison, and Allison swinging back a knife in his right hand. Allison is later cornered, and a scream can be heard coming from Ramirez. We're also learning more about what led to that May 3rd day. Multiple witnesses today shared that the tension between the 2 began at a prom after party at Allison's girlfriend's house, and that plans to fight after school and off campus were in place. Allison's friends testified that he had told her about the plans, but, quote, he didn't want to fight, he wanted to graduate. We ran out of time during the testimony of one of the boys who was in the bathroom, but he's set to return tomorrow when the trial returns at 9 a.m. To read more about what the witnesses testified today, go to kcentv.com.
Today, testimony continued in the murder trial of Cayson Allison, a former Belton High student accused of stabbing and killing a fellow student.
6 News reporter Sydney Walker was back at the Bell County Justice Complex. Sydney, what'd you learn?
Today we heard from 3 more boys who were present in the bathroom during the fight, plus we got more context about what happened at a prom after party that caused tension between Allison and Ramirez. The first boy, who had already been questioned by the state yesterday, faced cross-examination today. The defense asked him, quote,
hey, teach your kids to stop messing with people. You know how many times I have to come and save little kids from being bullied from other bigger kids? Like every day. I always get one kiddo. It doesn't matter. At least one time a day, I'll have some kid, hey, Coach Hill, and come to me in tears. They don't want to say the person's name because they're afraid of retaliation. You understand? There was one time I almost swung on this little SA. He was a big ass. He was bigger than me, but it was one time I almost for a split second said, fuck it. I'm gonna lose my job, go to jail, but I'm gonna beat this boy's ass. He gonna learn that. One time I came that close to saying, I'm gonna teach him a lesson. I'm gonna give him a reason to hate black people. It happens. You have those moments, especially when you're invested in these kids and you want to see these kids do well. And you don't like to see them crying and hurt or scared and terrified and shit like that. I hate bullies, man. I hate bullies. But come on.
Would you wait for the second punch? And, quote, would you gamble with your life or would you end the fight? State redirected with, quote, would you stab somebody in a fist fight? To which the student replied no. Another student who was in the bathroom simply by chance revealed that Belton High students caught in fights were fined $300 in tickets. He also confirmed that the bathroom doors can lock from both the outside and inside, but it is still unknown if the bathroom was or was not locked by Ramirez. Last up for the day was Ramirez's brother. He testified that at a prom after party, Allison acted aggressive and inappropriate toward his prom date, which caused his brother to step in. Afterward, a Snapchat group was created where Allison shared with Ramirez plans to fight in the woods of West Temple Park. The trial was finished today around 12:30 due to some scheduling conflicts, so we'll hear more from Joe Ramirez's brother tomorrow when the trial resumes at 9 a.m. Ramirez's brother returned to the stand today along with 2 others. Emotions ran high today, with one member in the gallery removed from the gallery after he yelled out at the defense, calling him ignorant, and was escorted out of the courtroom. Ramirez's brother, plus a medical examiner and a close friend of Cayson, were on the stand today. Today we learned Joe Ramirez had been previously arrested for assault when he was 18 and the victim was 17. He was brought to tears. Ramirez's brother was brought to tears when videos from that day were shown to him. The defense also asked if Ramirez was, quote, mad that Cayson fought back, to which he replied, I'm mad that he killed my brother. Next up was a medical examiner who oversaw Ramirez's autopsy. He shared that their examination found 4 separate stab wounds on Ramirez's body. The examiner said that the cause of death was stabbing with homicide as the matter of death. We learned there was 1 large stab wound across Ramirez's chest which caused multiple injuries to both the heart itself and the left lung, as well as 2 stab wounds on his buttocks and a wound on his upper back.
Okay, so the buttocks, that means he was running away. So after you get to poking a motherfucker a couple times, they realize they've been poked, now they want to get away from you. So as he's running away, you get to swinging, and he caught him in it. I don't feel bad. Stop messing with people.
To both the heart itself and the left lung, as well as 2 stab wounds on his buttocks and a wound on his upper back and left forearm. Last up for the day was a friend of Allison who shared that he had heard from others that Allison had brought a knife to school that day, but was unsure if Allison had told him this personally. That friend will be back next week to testify and probably talk about some evidence that was discussed today, consisting of 2 text message chains between Allison and the friend.
You're right. They had no white fatigue. Now see. Okay. You know what? I'm just gonna read you. Thank you for the 2. TMZ gonna get footage of that Karemelo. Yeah, thank you, sir. Okay, let's get back to it.
Trial will not resume until Monday, April 21st. We'll be back for you then.
Today marked day 5 of the murder trial of Cayson Allison, with 4 more witnesses taking the stand, including 2 detectives.
One testimony that really stands out from today comes from an ex-girlfriend of Joe Ramirez and a close friend of Cayson Allison. She shared that Allison had told her directly threats towards Joe Ramirez. Another close friend of Allison returned to the stand today discussing text messages between the 2 of them, and those texts contain things like Allison saying, "Bro, bring me a gun," and discussion of Joe and their altercation at the prom after party. That friend said that the after party is where this all started, and that it was his understanding that Ramirez had pulled a gun on Allison at this party. Next up was Ramirez's girlfriend, who said that Allison had told her personally that, quote, he wanted Joe on life support and wanted to stomp his head in.
Okay, so the essay pulled the gun on the white boy. All right, but come on, I'm here for it.
Most of the day was spent questioning Belton Police investigator Robert Preston. He shared a recovered Snapchat audio recording, which includes Allison detailing Ramirez pulling a gun on him at the prom after party, calling Ramirez names, and saying he wanted to, quote, send him to the hospital. In cross-examination, the defense mostly attempted to discredit his investigation and the methods used, asking why he didn't review certain security videos or obtain witnesses' phones when the high school was still on lockdown. Lastly, Detective Robert Gatewood shared an audio recording from when he had arrested Allison at his home. Allison can be heard asking someone to come get him and take him to Waco, followed by his arrest when he says, quote, I was just trying to protect myself. That witness was on stand for most of the day. In cross-examination, the defense mostly asked him to discredit his investigation. There's still more witnesses to come. This trial is still ongoing. We'll be back tomorrow at 9 a.m. Today, a Belton PD detective took the stand and showed evidence confirming that the lock on the bathroom door was not functioning from the inside. This comes after multiple claims from the defense that Ramirez had locked the door during the fight.
Okay, to answer your question, what school doesn't have CCTV cameras? What school do you know that doesn't have CCTV cameras, both inside and outside? What school do you know that doesn't have them? Doesn't prevent anything. Kids are going to fight. What, did y'all forget how it was for y'all going to school? What did you not? Why y'all being? Stop being stupid, please. Stop being ignorant. Can you recall a time in your schooling there was not a fight? Did you not watch a fight go down? Did you help break up a fight? No, you did not. You're probably egging the shit on. Get him. Yo, he got his ass whooped. You were just no better than the rest of them, right? You were no better than the rest of them. You were egging the shit on. You weren't trying to, yo, chill. We homies. Stop this. Please stop. Okay? Let's continue.
Up first for the day was a Temple police officer who worked with a canine unit to find the murder weapon. The small black folding knife was found in a field close to the roadway where Allison had told him it was. Allison had thrown the knife out of his car window on the way home from Belton High. The investigation's primary detective, Gene Cole, testified next. He shared that Allison told him that he had taken the knife from his stepdad's closet that morning because he, quote, knew if he saw Josh and Joe in the bathroom, there was going to be a fight.
Okay, let's continue.
The detective also detailed Belton PD's initial questioning of Allison, sharing that Allison told him he did not remember how many times he stabbed Joe. A video taken by Detective Cole was then shown, determining that, quote, the lock did not actually work and could not be engaged from the inside. Furthermore, Cole said that Allison had never mentioned anything to him about Joe or Josh Rios locking the door. We ended at about 2 p.m. today due to some scheduling issues, but we can expect to hear from Detective Cole tomorrow when he continues his testimony when the trial returns at 9 a.m.
Well, the prosecution rested its case today in the murder trial of Cayson Allison.
Detective Gene Cole, who was the primary detective on the investigation into the stabbing at Belton High, was on the stand for almost 5 hours, and that's just today. This isn't including his testimony from yesterday as well. After the state rested its case, the defense called 3 witnesses in the last hour of today. The full over an hour-long video of detectives' initial questioning of Allison was shown to the jury today. The video shows Allison lying his head down on the desk and eventually lying on the ground and vomiting in a trash can. In the video, Allison revealed that he took the knife from his stepdad's closet that morning out of fear of being jumped by Ramirez, and also that before Ramirez had punched him, he had pulled the knife out and told Ramirez, quote, don't touch me or I'm going to stab you.
Okay, that's not premeditated. Hold up, Django. No, sir. That's not premeditated. Because clearly his conviction, that's not premeditated. Pay attention to what he said, okay?
And vomiting in a trash can. In the video, Allison revealed that he took the knife from his stepdad's closet that morning out of fear of being jumped by Ramirez, and also that before Ramirez had punched him, he had pulled the knife out and told Ramirez, quote, "Don't touch me or I'm going to stab you." What followed was a long period of pushback from...
Does that sound familiar? Now, this could be all one... Well, you know what, Jomo? Where you at, Jomo? I owe you an apology, bro. I know the whole PSYOP shit be irritating the fuck out of me, and I half the time I agree with you, but this is literally word for word what Karemelo was saying. So this could be one giant PSYOP, y'all. This could be one giant production just to feed off the ignorance and hate from peasants. I'm willing to entertain the argument that this whole Karemelo, even this Cayson Allison shit was two giant productions to feed off the energies of peasants. Jomo, I owe you an apology, sir. Please forgive me. I hear the word PSYOP too many times. I just get irritated. So please forgive me, sir. This is word for word, damn near what Karemelo was saying. Yes? Are you not entertained? Let's continue.
The defense regarding the overall investigation. They asked why Allison was questioned even though he was visibly ill, why Allison was not Mirandized in a more serious matter, and why Cole did not view security footage previously. They also asked once again why phones were not collected at the scene before the lockdown was lifted. The prosecution rested their case just before 4 p.m., and the defense then called 3 witnesses. First was the doctor who treated Allison in the emergency department. He confirmed that Allison was given a CT scan to rule out serious head injuries like a brain bleed or skull fracture, and also confirmed his diagnosis of a closed head injury.
Damn, sis. I totally forgot about that. Holy cow, on VHS tapes. Matter of fact, it was that and Wildin' Out Girls, right? What was it called? Girls Gone Wild. Yes, bum fights and Girls Gone Wild at 2 a.m. Crazy infomercials. Girls Gone Wild. Bum fights. And then early YouTube, you had the bum fights on YouTube. Good catch. Great catch. Scorched Earth, thank you for the 5. Didn't Allison follow the boy into the bathroom? How is that protected? Sir, this case has already been resolved. His appeal is being listened to. He's going to get out. He either gets out. Okay, no. Either they restructure his sentence, because they gave him 10. So either they lower his sentence, overturn the conviction, or it gets kicked back for a brand new trial. He's going to get some remedy. He's going to get one of those 3 courses of action from his appeal. Okay? You have enough evidence here to establish there was a self-defense issue here. There's enough. Okay? The fact that they only gave him 10 years, now you can say, well, it's like because he's white. Sure, I'm with you. Yeah, you can make the argument, yeah, he hunted the essay down. Possibly. But he also gives himself a pretty big window for the case of him being tormented by the essay. I'm sorry, when somebody pulls a gun on you, to me, all bets are off. Yes? Would you agree? Okay, let's continue. I'm here for it. I'm thoroughly entertained.
Next was a close friend of Allison who was supposed to fight alongside Allison in the planned fight off campus. He said that fight was supposed to occur around 5 p.m. that day and take place in a 3-on-3 format. Last up was a teacher and coach from Belton High who helped stop...
Wait, they were talking 3-on-3? Oh, they about to really get in... What? What's that movie, y'all, with was it Matthew Broderick, 3 o'clock high? Where the big ass bully wanted to fight homeboy at 3 o'clock, and the kid was like, "Oh my god, big ass bully dude." And it was it called 3 o'clock high? I think it was Matthew Broderick, but it was a big ass bully. He had pork chop sideburns and a leather jacket. And he's like, "Oh, we're gonna fight at 3 o'clock." It was an old 80s movie. Somebody knows the title. I don't feel like looking it up.
Was given a CT scan to rule out serious head injuries like a brain bleed or skull fracture, and also confirmed his diagnosis of a closed head injury. Next was a close friend of Allison who was supposed to fight alongside Allison in the planned fight off campus. Wow. He said that fight was supposed to occur around 5 p.m. that day and take place in a 3-on-3 format.
Wow.
Last up was a teacher and coach from Belton High who helped stop Ramirez's brother from chasing Allison down the hallway. He shared that Josh Rios had told him that his brother was stabbed in the bathroom, and the two went to check, assuming that Ramirez would still be in there. After that, he took Josh to the nurse's office and kept him in there, assuming that, quote, the best way to help Joe was to let the nurses work. In cross-examination, the accuracy of claims made by Allison's friend about who initiated the planning of the fight altogether was questioned, and Snapchat group chats were discussed. We ended right at 5 p.m. today, but we'll be back at 9 a.m. tomorrow to hear the defense continue their case.
Both the defense and the prosecution have now closed and rested their cases in the murder trial of Cayson Allison.
Allison is accused of stabbing classmate Joe Ramirez nearly 3 years ago. 6 News reporter Sydney Walker has been in
This case took 3 years. Karemelo's case, 8 months, 10 months.
the courtroom since the trial started. So Sydney, what happens now?
Yeah, both sides have rested, but they got a lot done. In the past 2 weeks, we've heard from over 30 witnesses. 5 of them took the stand today, including one familiar face. A friend of Allison shared today that he saw someone pull a gun on Allison at the prom after party, but it was not Ramirez. After that, a person testified that they had been jumped by Ramirez in the past.
Okay, see, once again, you have there's a cycle here. There's a pattern of bullying people. Listen, you're gonna have a hard time making people feel bad for bullies, especially if they have a history of doing it to other people as well. Okay, the only thing here with the Austin Metcalf is we don't have a real history of him bullying people, but nonetheless, I'm sure there's people out there that they won't come out and say it though. Okay, but come on.
Later, Belton PD Captain Richard Spurgeon testified that he got a statement from Josh Rios at the hospital that day, but Rios had not been very, quote, forthcoming. He also said that they had been made aware friends of Ramirez had been seeking retribution that day. When Rios returned to the stand, the defense listed things that he failed to tell law enforcement the first time. Rios said that he was going through a lot of emotions when he was questioned by Spurgeon at the hospital and said his brother's life was the main thing on his mind at the time. Last up for the day was Allison's mom, who shared 2 photos of Allison she had taken when he had arrived home that day on the incident, showing blood on his face and a busted lip. After both sides closed, the jury was excused until Monday morning at 9 a.m. That will give the judge and the counsel some time to discuss the charges and finalize them. When the jury returns, we'll hear that official charge and also those closing
Super on cold.
Well, following a conference with the judge and jury today, the court has decided on a final charge for Cayson Allison. We're waiting to hear back from the court on what that charge is. 6 News was at the court during initial discussions this morning. We know the judge has instructed the jury to consider charging Allison with murder, manslaughter, or criminally negligent homicide.
Are you not entertained? This is bar for bar, Karemelo Anthony. Bar for bar. Witness statements, defense motive. This is bar for bar, Karemelo Anthony. You've got to be kidding me. You can't make this shit up. I had no idea the extent of this case. This is a wash, rinse, repeat. Once again, do not feed into this. Okay?
Right now, he's accused of stabbing classmate Joe Ramirez to death back in 2022 during a fight in a Belton high school bathroom.
Yeah, we were all waiting in the hallway anxiously for that verdict to come in, but we're going to have to wait a little bit longer because the jury in the trial of Cayson Allison has just been sequestered. They will continue their deliberations for another day. At about 12:15, the jury went into a closed room to start their deliberations and begin discussion. In the hours since then, the hallways have been packed as people are waiting. At 5, they notified people that if they left the building, they would not be let back into the building because that's when the Justice Complex closes. A food vendor, though, stayed open until 7, though he ran out of most of his supply and was left with only snacks. We saw boxes of pizza brought in for the on-duty officers, the jury, and even members of the council. Finally, the jury asked to conclude for the evening and was sequestered. They had brought a packed bag in anticipation of this.
Wait, is it the guy with the boat, the millionaire with the boat? I seen that. That's crazy. That's a crazy case. Super clairvoyant. No, I like Super Sanger. I like that better, man. You know what? I got more for y'all. I like Super Sanger 75 better. It has more punch to it. I like that shit. They're like Super Sanger, yeah. I like that shit.
Tonight, Judge Wade Faulkner, who's the district judge for the 478th, who's been hearing the trial that y'all been covering the last couple of weeks, has ordered Sheriff Bill Cook, the sheriff of Bell County, to sequester the jury. We have moved them to an undisclosed hotel location where they remain under the security of the sheriff's office.
In reaching a verdict, all 12 jurors must agree that a charge is or is not proven beyond reasonable doubt. First, the jury must consider 3 different theories of murder. If they find none to be proven, they then consider self-defense. If neither are agreed upon, manslaughter is then discussed. If they don't agree on that, self-defense must be considered. Lastly, criminally negligent homicide is considered. Of course, they can also find Allison not guilty on all charges or struggle to agree, resulting in a mistrial. Well, the court is in recess until the jury agrees on that verdict, and we are going to have to wait just another day. But Judge Faulkner ordered the sheriff to return the jury tomorrow at 9 a.m. to consider consider and continue their deliberations, consider all the evidence, and hopefully we are one step closer to that verdict. I'll be back tomorrow with an update as soon as we have one. Live in Belton, Sydney Walker, 6 News.
Sydney, thanks for hanging in there. I know it's been a long day for the jury and for you. Thanks so much.
After more than 2 weeks of trial today, a jury found former Belton High student Cayson Allison guilty of criminally negligent homicide.
It's the least severe charge he faced, as the jury found him not guilty of murder and manslaughter. We now go to 6 News reporter Sydney Walker live.
Gee, I wonder why. Now, how much of it was his race? How much do you think that conviction was his race? More than half? A third? Because you do have a history of him being bullied. But, you know.
At the Bell County Justice Complex. Sydney, how was it today?
And the jury finally came back with their verdict today at about 10:45 a.m. This comes after they heard from over 20 witnesses, viewed, heard, saw all of the above, all sorts of evidence that led them to believe that Cayson Allison had acted criminally negligent, resulting in the death of Joe Ramirez almost 3 years ago today in that Belton High bathroom. Based on the verdict, the 12 members of the jury believed that the state proved beyond a reasonable doubt that Allison had acted criminally negligent, resulting in the death of Joe Ramirez. After Allison was found guilty, his defense attorney, Zach Boyd, asked the judge if Allison's ankle monitor could be removed. The state objected to this and asked Faulkner to find his bond insufficient. The judge denied both of these requests. Allison faces anywhere from 6 months to 2 years in prison, but we will have to wait until June 16th for that sentencing. When news of a verdict came in, people piled into the courtroom, anxiously awaiting, some even already crying. Allison's defense team acknowledged the high emotions in this case.
This was a hard case. And
Superman
nobody should ever outlive their child.
Oh no, oh no.
No human being should have their child die in a violent way. And I'm so sorry for their loss. And the Allison family is so sorry for their loss, because there is no good outcome to this.
When news of a verdict came in, people piled into the courtroom, anxiously awaiting. Before the verdict was read, Judge Faulkner reminded everyone that the court would not allow any verbal outbursts.
What you're not going to see, definitely not going to see no racial slurs being hurled back and forth between whites and Mexicans. It may get tense, but you're not going to see not all that.
Disrespect, or standing out of seats, regardless of what verdict was read. The jury had been deliberating from 12:15 p.m. last night to about 9 p.m. last night, when they then requested to be sequestered. Before the verdict was read, Judge Faulkner reminded everyone about the rules of the court, like I said earlier, and the jury had been deliberating from 12.
Okay, can we take a moment to appreciate her outfit? She looks good in this outfit. I like this outfit. I like this outfit on her. She looks good right here. Okay, let's continue.
15 to about 9 p.m. last night when they requested to be sequestered, but they came back at 9 a.m. today, discussed for about 2 hours, and then arrived at that verdict when they found out that Allison was accused and found guilty of criminal negligence. So, yes.
All right, thanks so much, Sydney.
Well, the verdict comes as a pivotal moment in a case that has drawn intense scrutiny since the fatal stabbing at Belton High School in 2022. The jury had 4 different options under Texas homicide law: acquittal, murder, manslaughter, or criminally negligent homicide.
They chose the least severe of the criminal options, rejecting the state's allegations that Allison intended to kill Ramirez. 6 News reporter Juliana Jackson has more on the legal implications of this verdict. Juliana?
It's important to break down the legal differences between these charges. Murder requires intent to kill or cause serious bodily injury. Manslaughter involves recklessly causing death, and while criminally negligent homicide is when someone causes death by taking a substantial and unjustifiable risk that results in death.
Often one of those cases that we refer to as splitting the baby. There were likely people on both sides of the fence. They were given many options.
Self-defense played a pivotal role in the Cayson Allison trial.
The defendant say, yes, I committed the offense. However, I was justified in doing so.
Yeah.
So that completely shifts the narrative of the case. We don't have a defendant saying, it wasn't me, I didn't do it.
I think if we had a history of Austin harassing and beating up Karemelo, I think the case would have gone a little bit more in his favor if you believe this was a real case, and if you believe this kid had a real shot at a self-defense cause. Okay, but we don't have a history of Austin beating up Karemelo. We have a history here of the SA going after the white boy multiple times. But let's continue.
The jury's verdict suggests that they believed Allison's actions went beyond what a reasonable person would consider necessary self-defense, but did not find he intended to kill Ramirez or acted with conscious disregard for human life. Criminally negligent homicide punishment ranges typically from 180 days to 2 years in a state jail facility. However, there's one factor that could alter Allison's sentence.
If there is an affirmative finding of a deadly weapon, the judge cannot give the defendant probation. So whether or not there is a deadly weapon finding in this case is critically important.
Even though a knife was used in this case, an affirmative finding of a deadly weapon is not automatic. It must be specifically found by either the jury or the judge.
Very interesting.
Allison has chosen to have Judge Faulkner determine his sentence rather than the jury. Legal analyst Liz Mitchell says this could be a strategic decision.
We have a defendant who has never been involved in the criminal justice system.
Imagine, what are the odds, right? Okay, come on.
He is basically set up for a successful life. A jury, it's sometimes harder for jurors to put emotion aside and look just at the facts. With judges, they are looking strictly at the facts. They're looking.
While many criminal convictions are automatically appealed, appealing this verdict could be dangerous for Allison.
If he appeals the case and it's reversed and remanded, meaning it is sent back to the trial court, the state can try him again, and that means you are rolling the dice and could possibly be convicted of murder the second time around.
Allison will remain free on bond until sentencing hearing, which is set for June 16th at 9 a.m. At that time, we'll learn whether a deadly weapon finding will be made and whether Allison will serve his sentence on probation or in custody. You can stay updated here on 6 News.
Allison's defense attorney, Zachary Boyd, spoke moments after the verdict was delivered.
All right, folks, let's talk about this verdict. You heard it. After the jury listened to everything, after they waded through the mud and the murky waters churned up by a less than perfect investigation, they came back with criminally negligent homicide. Now the state, they started out hard, swinging and crying murder. They wanted everyone to believe that my client, this young man, Cayson Allison, was a cold-blooded murderer. But that's not the verdict you heard today. The jury looked at the evidence. They looked at all of the evidence, or rather, they looked at the lack of all of the evidence. The vital pieces that were ignored or mishandled, and they said no, not murder. They didn't even say manslaughter, which is a step down and requires recklessness or a conscious disregard of risk. No, they found criminally negligent homicide. Now, what does that mean under Texas law? It means that Cayson caused the death, but it was by criminal negligence. It's about failing to perceive a substantial and unjustifiable risk that his actions would cause the death. It's a gross deviation from what an ordinary person should have been aware. Think about that. It means the jury found he did not intend to kill, or even that he was aware of the specific risk, but decided to ignore it. They found he should have been aware, based on his actions in a moment of sheer terror and chaos. This verdict, while it is not the full acquittal that we were seeking, is a clear rejection of the state's case and the state's primary narrative.
It's chainmail.
It tells us that the jury grappled with the context of what happened in that bathroom that day on May 3rd of 2022. They heard about the after-prom party where someone from Joe's group pulled a gun on Cayson. They heard Sam Ramirez testify despite his own fear about witnessing that gun being brandished. They heard from Corbin Ovale tell you about Joe Ramirez's history of violence and his group and their history of jumping people. They heard Angel Murillo say Cayson didn't want to fight, and Joe tried to lock the bathroom door. Tito Chamel was the cameraman. He confirmed that Joe tried to lock the door and initiated the encounter.
Okay.
He also said that he was recording the fight because Joe liked to have his fights recorded.
Okay.
They saw Cayson's injuries from the attack, consistent with being sucker punched.
Okay.
They heard Cayson's own words from the interview, that he was rushed and punched after they took off their backpacks and approached him.
Wow.
And all of this evidence, the evidence the state often tried to ignore or minimize or mislead the jury on, painted a picture of a young man facing a perceived threat of serious bodily injury or death who was trapped in a small, confined, inescapable place.
Okay, I have a dumb suggestion. Tell your children, if they find themselves in a situation like Carmelo Anthony, one of two things. Either run away from the situation and go talk to an adult, or curl up in a ball and let them get their licks in, then pull out your blade and get to swinging. Okay? Now, if you have better alternatives, present them to me. But I would suggest you tell your kids one of two things. If it's a 1v4, 1v5, 1v3, even 1v2, tell your kids to run away, go to an adult for help, or hey, you know what? Just lay down, curl up, turtle shell, and then when you get a chance, go ahead and pull that motherfucking dagger out and get to swinging and cut them down. Okay? It's always best to not get the first shot off, because that makes you the aggressor. Now, some of y'all grew up, no, I get the first shot off that way, and I understand that. But if you're talking about, if you're in a state where, you know, if we're talking about a situation where a life could be lost or taken, tell your kids to do one of two things: either run away from the situation or lay down, take a couple licks, then pull out the blade and get to swinging. Okay, exactly. Oh Lord, ma'am. Why am I not surprised that you would say that? Why?
A boys' bathroom. And we all know that nothing good ever happens in the boys' bathroom. Self-defense, under the law the judge gave, allowed for the deadly use of force if he reasonably believed it was immediately necessary to protect himself. There was no self-defense option in regards to criminally negligent homicide. The jury had to consider whether or not the state proved beyond a reasonable doubt that Cayson did not act in self-defense, and they wholly failed to do so. And let's not forget the shadow cast by the investigation itself. The failure to Mirandize Cayson at the arrest, the minimization of Cayson Allison's rights under Miranda at the beginning of his interrogation, watching with callous disregard as Cayson's injuries continue to hurt him. He continues to feel worse throughout the interview, such that at one point he lays down on the floor and vomits. And the quote you hear from the law enforcement officer, Detective Gatewood at that time, is, "You weren't kidding, were you, Cayson?" Because Cayson was telling the truth in that interview as best as he knew it after having sustained a closed head injury that was diagnosed at the ER when they had to rule out a brain bleed by CT to make sure he wasn't more injured than he actually was. These were not minor hiccups. They didn't even try to investigate self-defense. They didn't even try to put together a day-in-the-life video of each of the boys that day when they arrived at school, when they went to their first period class, when they left their first period class and walked to the bathroom at A100 in that wing where these events took place, and then when they left. Because it was too much footage, I guess. We had 18 plus terabytes of video. They said
18 terabytes. Let that sink in. Do you know how much that is? 18 terabytes. Not gigabytes. Terabytes. Wow.
Law enforcement said they looked at less than an hour of video. They simply chose not to do a complete, thorough, and comprehensive investigation. The jury, by returning a verdict of criminally negligent homicide, has told us they didn't buy the state's argument that Cayson acted with intent to kill or even act with reckless disregard for life in that moment. They saw a young man scared, injured, reacting in a sudden, violent encounter that others initiated and escalated. This verdict reflects a finding of a lower level of culpability, recognizing the chaos and fear Cayson experienced, which may have prevented him from fully perceiving the risk in that split second, even if an ordinary person hypothetically should have. This is not over. We move on to the sentencing phase. We will continue to fight for justice for Cayson Allison, a young man who was trying to graduate.
Okay, so now let's get updated. So let's go here.
And Cayson Allison has been sentenced to 10 years in prison for the death of a fellow student in 2022.
Allison was convicted in April of stabbing and killing fellow student Joe Ramirez, and today he received the maximum sentence for criminally negligent homicide. 6 News reporter Sydney Walker has been in the courtroom since day one and has more on today's sentencing.
After nearly 3 years of awaiting trial, 2 weeks of testimony, a sequestered jury, and a deadly weapon enhancement, Cayson Allison will spend the next decade.
That's why he got the 10, the deadly weapon enhancement, because without the enhancement, he's looking at anywhere between probation and 2 years. Now it makes sense. They hit him with the enhancement. So much for the white privilege? Yes or no? They still hit him with the enhancement. But come on.
Behind bars. Allison was sentenced to confinement in an institutional division for 10 years. This came after 9 witnesses testified this morning, including the mothers of both victims, Allison's therapist and former Belton ISD employees. All 3 school employees shared trauma from the event, bringing up a lack of sleep and increased anxiety on campus, with one citing the stabbing as her reason for retirement. Ramirez's aunt and sister both made it clear that they did not agree with the jury's verdict and don't think they've received justice. Joe's mom tearfully defended her son on the stand, saying she would absolutely not forgive Allison and that she has left it in, quote, God's hands for his vengeance. The defense called Allison's parents and counselor, all who pointed out growth in Allison and an overall remorse for his actions. In closing arguments, the defense argued that sending Allison to prison.
Do you know how many times I deal with parents and we had to report their kids' bad behavior, and they always say, not my child, that's not my child. My child doesn't do that. Most parents are in complete delusion about how bad their kids are. They can be looking at the footage in front of them, like, this is your kid. No, that wasn't my kid. They messing with my kid. No, bitch, your kid is bad. But let's continue.
Prison would be, quote, a death sentence. Meanwhile, the prosecution argued that 10 years is a just sentence and that at the end of the day, Ramirez's death was entirely avoidable. In the end, Faulkner sided with the prosecution, causing Joe's family to erupt in cheers following the reading of the sentencing. Allison has already been booked into the Bell County Jail and will begin his 10-year sentence today. In Belton, Sydney Walker, 6 News.
All right, thank you for your coverage, Sydney. Meanwhile, tonight at 8 o'clock.
Now we get to the appeals process. Cayson Allison appeal. There we go. Okay. We'll go over it one more time. One last time.
The legal team for Cayson Allison, the former Belton High School student convicted in the death of a fellow classmate, has filed an appeal. Allison was sentenced to 10 years in prison after being convicted of criminally negligent homicide. According to court documents obtained by 6 News, Allison's appeal lawyer is arguing 3 points. Let's break it down. First, according to the appeal attorney, the judge told the jury self-defense does not consider a part of criminally negligent homicide charge. Second, the attorney also says the state failed to disprove self-defense. And third, nearly 2 weeks after the jury was dismissed, the state filed a deadly weapon notice.
That's the enhancement. That's what got him 10 instead of the 2 as a max.
The appeals lawyer argues the judge had no legal or constitutional authority to make that finding himself, increasing the maximum sentence from 2 years to 10.
Oh, he's going to get that appeal. He's going home. He's going to go home. I put money on that. He goes home.
The Allison's legal team is asking for an acquittal, a new trial, or a new sentencing hearing. Cayson Allison is serving time at a prison in Brazoria County, just south of Houston.
Wow. Wow. Parallels, people. Parallels. Now, once again, very similar case. Emotionally charged case, both of them. And just temper yourselves. Steel yourselves. Stop arguing with these people.